What turns a promising young man, a valedictorian, an Ivy League graduate, a bright mind with limitless potential, into a fugitive wanted for one of the most shocking crimes of the year? This is the story of Luigi Mangion. Some call him a hero, others a cold-blooded killer. In December 2024, the murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, sent shockwaves through the nation. The calculated nature of the attack, the symbolism etched on the bullet casings, and the haunting manifesto left behind, each detail more chilling than the last. It's a collision of frustration, ambition, and a system that millions say has failed them. And now, Luigi Mangion stands at the center of a debate dividing a nation. So what do we make of this? Was this an act of justice born from desperation, or the dangerous unraveling of a man pushed to his limits? There is one question remains. Is Luigi Mangion a victim of a broken system, or a villain who crossed a line no one should ever cross? To those who knew him, Luigi Mangion was the golden child. Born into privilege, he grew up in a family of wealth and influence. His father, one of 10 children, belonged to a dynasty that controlled businesses ranging from country clubs to nursing homes. And Luigi? He was the one destined to make a mark of his own. In high school, he was more than just a student. He was a leader. Valedictorian of his class at Gilman High School in Baltimore, captain of the robotics team, and the recipient of countless academic scholarships. To everyone around him, Luigi was the embodiment of potential. He didn't stop there. At the University of Pennsylvania, Luigi excelled once again. Earning degrees in engineering and computer science with a minor in mathematics, he stood out as someone whose brilliance was matched only by his drive. He founded a video game development club, mentored students as a teaching assistant, and even spent a summer leading a pre-collegiate program at Stanford University. But beneath all the accolades, Luigi had a dream of a life filled with adventure and freedom. After graduation, he left the cold hustle of the East Coast for the warm shores of Hawaii. He wanted more than just success on paper. He wanted to live, surfing the waves, hiking the trails, and embracing the beauty of the world around him. But life has a way of throwing obstacles in the path of even the brightest stars. For Luigi, that obstacle was his own body. Since childhood, he'd suffered from spondylolisthesis, a condition that caused his vertebrae to slip out of place. At first, he managed to push through the pain. But in Hawaii, as he took to the waves, his condition worsened. Surfing aggravated the injury. Hiking became unbearable. Days turned into nights of restless agony. The physical pain wasn't just slowing him down, it was consuming him. Imagine waking up every day with a pain so relentless that you can't do the things you love. Imagine losing the ability to sleep, to move freely, to live the life you dreamed of. And then imagine turning to the people you've paid, your health insurance company, for help, only to be told, no, over and over again. Luigi didn't give up easily. He poured himself into research, reading every book he could find on chronic pain. He tried everything, home remedies, exercises, diets, but nothing worked. The pain only grew worse, and with it, his frustration. Eventually, the situation escalated. After an episode so severe that it sent him to the ER, Luigi faced a choice: endure the pain or undergo an expensive spinal fusion surgery. There was no middle ground. He scheduled the surgery, knowing it would change his life. But at what cost? The surgery was a success. For the first time in years, Luigi felt relief. He could walk, move, even dream of living again. He traveled, backpacking through Asia and rediscovering a sense of freedom. But while his body was healing, his battle with the healthcare system was far from over. Like millions of Americans, Luigi struggled to get his insurance provider to cover the surgery. The endless phone calls, the delays, the denials, It was a fight as grueling as the pain itself. Every no felt like a slap in the face, a reminder that to them, he was just another number. It's not hard to see how someone could feel trapped by their own body, by bureaucracy, by a system designed to profit-it-off suffering. For Luigi, what began as frustration started to fester into something far more consuming. His world, once filled with ambition and promise, had become one of isolation and anger. In his quiet moments, he read books critiquing the system, works like Industrial Society and Its Future. Online, he shared quotes about the sickness of society. And slowly, he began cutting himself off from the people who cared about him. Posts from friends grew more desperate. "Where are you? Are you okay?" But Luigi had already begun to disappear. Luigi Mangion wasn't just battling pain anymore. He was battling a system he saw as unjust, a system he felt had failed him. And in the months leading up to December 2024, his frustration boiled over. This is where his story takes a turn. This is where the questions begin. What pushes a person like Luigi Mangion, a man with everything to lose, into committing an act that would change his life and the lives of others forever? December 4th, 2024. Manhattan wakes up to a cold, brisk morning. The city is alive as always, with commuters rushing to their destinations and the Rockefeller Christmas tree lighting just hours away. For most, it's just another winter day. But for Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, it's a day that will mark the end of his life. It's 6:45 a.m. Thompson, a man at the top of one of America's largest health insurance companies, is walking toward the New York Hilton Midtown. He's in town for an investor conference, likely to discuss record profits, expansion plans, or the future of the healthcare industry. He's focused, unaware of the figure watching him from across the street. The person waiting is dressed entirely in black, blending into the morning shadows. A grey backpack slung over one shoulder, he stands still on West 54th Street, ignoring the bustle of passers-by. Surveillance cameras capture every second. He's not pacing. He's not nervous. He's patient. Thompson walks along the opposite side of the street, unaware that his every move is being tracked. The figure finally steps off the curb, crossing the street with purpose. The distance between them shrinks, second by second. And then, just as Thompson approaches the hotel entrance, the figure raises a firearm. The first shot rings out. Brian Thompson stumbles forward, clutching his leg. A second shot hits him in the back, forcing him to collapse onto the pavement. Panicked screams erupt around him as pedestrians scatter. But it's not over. The shooter calmly steps closer, unbothered by the chaos unfolding. The weapon jams for a moment, another terrifying detail caught on surveillance footage. He adjusts, clears the jam, and fires again. A witness, a woman standing just feet away, runs in terror as the final shots hit their mark. The attack lasts mere seconds. It's methodical, precise, and it's no coincidence. When investigators arrive, they find 3 bullet casings at the scene. Each one has been carefully etched with 3 words: deny, defend, depose. These words are not random. They reflect the tactics many believe health insurance companies use to deny claims, delay payments, and avoid accountability. To the public, this detail turns the murder into something more, a message. The shooter? He's already gone. Surveillance footage shows him leaving the scene on an electric bike, blending into the morning crowd as if nothing happened. He pedals toward Central Park, ditches the bike, and changes out of his jacket and backpack. Minutes later, he hails a cab, disappearing into the maze of Manhattan. Police are left with few immediate clues. The attack is captured on camera, but the shooter's face is obscured, a mask and hood concealing his identity. What they do know is this: the murder wasn't random. It was planned, executed with chilling precision, and the man behind it, He's already in motion, escaping into the anonymity of the city. For the next 5 days, the nation watches as the search unfolds. Investigators comb through surveillance footage, tracing the suspect's movements. They release images to the public, grainy photos of a figure in black, riding a bike near the scene. The NYPD offers a $110,000 reward for tips leading to his arrest. The FBI adds $50,000 more, but even with the mounting pressure, no one comes forward. Meanwhile, the public learns more about the crime. The details of the bullet casings, the precision of the attack, and slowly the narrative begins to shift. Online, people start to connect the dots. They see the frustration etched on the bullet casings as a reflection of their own struggles with the healthcare system. And suddenly, the manhunt isn't just about catching a killer, it's about understanding why this happened in the first place. But while the internet debates the morality of the act, law enforcement remains focused. They know the suspect is still out there, moving, planning, possibly preparing to strike again. The question looms large. What could drive someone like this to such extremes? And how long will it take to bring him to justice? 5 days. That's how long Luigi Mangion managed to stay on the run. 5 days of evading a nationwide manhunt, slipping through one of the most extensive dragnet operations in recent history. And yet, his capture didn't come from a breakthrough in high-tech surveillance or an elite detective's instincts. It came from a quiet corner of a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and the sharp eyes of an ordinary employee. It's December 9th, just after breakfast begins. Inside the McDonald's, customers are scattered across the dining area. Among them sits a man at a small table in the corner. He's wearing a blue surgical mask, eating hash browns and working on his laptop. To most, he looks like just another traveler passing through. But to one employee, something about him feels familiar. She glances at his face, particularly his eyes, and remembers the grainy photos from the news, the ones plastered on every screen since the murder in New York. She doesn't panic. Instead, she acts. Quietly, she picks up the phone and dials 911. "I think the guy from New York is here," she says. Minutes later, the police arrive. Rookie officer Tyler Fry and his partner walk into the restaurant. This isn't just another call for Fry. He's only been on the job for 6 months. But as soon as he sees the man in the corner, he knows. It was the eyes, Fry later said. "I recognized him immediately from the photos we'd seen." The officers approach calmly, not wanting to spook their suspect. "Sir, can we speak with you for a moment?" one of them asks. The man pulls his mask down slightly, revealing his face. For a brief moment, he tries to play it cool. He hands them an ID with the name Mark Rosaria, a fake name, of course. But when they press him, asking if he's been to New York recently, everything changes. His hands start to shake. His voice falters. The calm, calculated demeanor that had carried him through 5 days on the run begins to crumble. Realizing the game is up, the man lowers his head and admits his real name, Luigi Mangion. And then, as if the weight of the entire situation hits him at once, he wets himself. It's over. Luigi Mangion, the man accused of murdering Brian Thompson, is placed in handcuffs and escorted out of the McDonald's. But the arrest doesn't just mark the end of his escape, it brings with it a flood of revelations. Inside his backpack, police find the tools of a man on the run. A black, untraceable ghost gun, a loaded magazine with 6 rounds and a loose hollow-point bullet, thousands of dollars in cash, $8,000 in US currency, and another $2,000 in foreign bills. There's also a passport and a handwritten manifesto, a chilling confession that reads, "It had to be done. These parasites had it coming." For Officer Fry, the moment is surreal. A rookie cop from Altoona, Pennsylvania, taking down one of the most wanted men in the country. Even New York Mayor Eric Adams takes notice, personally calling Fry to thank him for his quick thinking and composure. But while Altoona celebrates its local hero, the story doesn't end here. Online, the reaction is swift and divided. Social media explodes with hashtags like #FreeLuigi and heated debates about whether the McDonald's employee who made the call deserves the $60,000 reward. Trolls even flood the restaurant's reviews with fake one-star ratings, calling the food terrible and blaming the location for Luigi's arrest. Meanwhile, others hail the McDonald's worker as the real MVP. Without her, they say, who knows how long Luigi could have stayed hidden, or what he might have done next. It's a moment that highlights the power of everyday people, the McDonald's worker who trusted her instincts, and the rookie officer who stepped up when it mattered most. In a case that had captivated the nation, Luigi Mangion's run had ended not with a high-speed chase or dramatic standoff, but with a quiet meal in a fast food restaurant. And yet, the questions remain. Why did it take so long to find him? What was his next move? And most importantly, how will the justice system handle the man who had now become a symbol of both defiance and destruction? As news of Luigi Mangion's arrest broke, the nation's attention turned toward the unfolding story. The murder of Brian Thompson, a CEO of one of the largest healthcare companies in America, had already sparked outrage and intrigue. But Luigi's capture added a new layer to the conversation, and the public wasn't just watching. They were choosing sides. The reaction was immediate and intense. On one side, people condemned him outright. To them, Luigi was a cold-blooded killer, a dangerous individual who crossed a line that should never be crossed. But on the other side, something unexpected was brewing. For many, Luigi wasn't just a criminal. He was a symbol. A person who, in their eyes, had taken a stand against a system they believed was broken. A system they felt profited off the suffering of millions. And suddenly, the man accused of murder wasn't just a suspect. To some, he was a hero. Online, the divide was stark. Hashtags like #FreeLuigi began trending on Twitter within hours. Posts flooded TikTok and Instagram, not just recounting the crime, but turning Luigi into an overnight sensation. Memes appeared everywhere. One viral post showed a picture of Luigi's mugshot with the caption, "No, don't get caught by the police, you're so attractive." Others used images of fictional anti-heroes, labeling Luigi as one of them. Social media, in its strange and often chaotic way, took hold of the story. On TikTok, people weren't just talking about Luigi, they were thirsting over him. Comments poured in about his looks, with people calling him the hottest fugitive since Ted Bundy. Thirst traps were made using old photos of Luigi from his social media accounts, paired with captions like, "Luigi didn't just murder, he murdered me with those cheekbones." But the conversation wasn't just shallow. Alongside the memes and jokes, there were countless posts sharing personal stories, real experiences with the healthcare system. A mother posted a video recounting how her 1-year-old daughter, diagnosed with a brain tumor, had been left waiting for 3 days because their health insurance wouldn't approve a transfer. Fighting back tears, she said, "I don't condone violence, but I understand his frustration." These stories resonated deeply. Luigi's actions, as extreme as they were, seemed to reflect a collective anger. For many, his crime was more than an act of violence. It was a statement about a system that, in their view, had failed countless people. Not everyone agreed, of course. Politicians, law enforcement, and healthcare executives condemned the public's response. Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro issued a statement. "In some dark corners, this killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. What he did was a crime, plain and simple." But the internet didn't let go. If anything, the backlash only fueled the viral movement. On Twitter, users started tagging other healthcare CEOs, calling them out with posts like, "You're next." Some even printed wanted posters with the names of other executives, framing them as public enemies. For many, the bullet casings etched with the words "deny, defend, depose" became a rallying cry. To them, those three words represented everything wrong with the healthcare industry: delays, denials, and profits over people. Not everyone agreed, of course. Politicians, law enforcement, and healthcare executives condemned the public's response. Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro issued a statement. "In some dark corners, this killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. What he did was a crime. Plain and simple." But the internet didn't let go. If anything, the backlash only fueled the viral movement. On Twitter, users started tagging other healthcare CEOs, calling them out with posts like, "You're next." Some even printed wanted posters with the names of other executives, framing them as public enemies. For many, the bullet casings etched with the words "deny, defend, depose" became a rallying cry. To them, those three words represented everything wrong with the healthcare industry: delays, denials, and profits over people. It's important to understand the depth of frustration that fueled this response. In America, healthcare isn't just a service, it's a business. Private corporations control insurance, and even when people pay their premiums, many still find their claims denied or delayed. To millions, Luigi's actions were extreme, but his frustrations, they were all too relatable. But this public support didn't come without consequences. The McDonald's employee who alerted police became the target of online trolls, accused of betraying someone they saw as a revolutionary. Fake one-star reviews flooded the restaurant's page with comments like, "This place has rats, and your insurance won't cover the treatment." It was the internet at its most bizarre and relentless. Luigi Mangion's case became more than a crime story. It became a mirror, reflecting the anger, pain, and hopelessness so many feel when faced with a system they can't fight. The memes, the thirst traps, the hashtags, they were all part of a larger conversation. What does it say about us, as a society, that a man accused of murder can become a viral sensation? What does it reveal about the depths of our frustration, the cracks in our systems, and the way we view justice? The public response to Luigi Mangion's crime wasn't just about him. It was about all of us, our struggles, our anger, and our search for answers in a world that often feels stacked against the everyday person. Whether you see him as a villain or a symbol, one thing is certain. Luigi's story has ignited a fire that won't be easily extinguished. Luigi Mangion's capture marked the end of his flight, but for him, the real battle was just beginning. With the eyes of the nation on him, Luigi faced a series of charges that could lead to a lifetime behind bars, or even the death penalty. He stood accused of first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree criminal weapons possession, forgery, and using a fake ID. In Pennsylvania, where he was arrested, he faced additional charges: carrying a firearm without a license, tampering with records, and providing false identification to law enforcement. But the case was more than a list of charges. It was a puzzle, one that prosecutors and defense attorneys were now tasked with piecing together. In New York, Luigi's defense team, led by Karen Friedman Agnifilo, a former Manhattan prosecutor, quickly began building their strategy. The challenges ahead were immense. Police had recovered damning evidence from Luigi's backpack: a ghost gun, a silencer, and a manifesto that appeared to confess to the crime. Written in his own hand, the manifesto described health insurance executives as parasites and declared it had to be done. Then there were the bullet casings, the words "deny, defend, depose" etched onto each one. Prosecutors would argue that these were deliberate symbols of Luigi's motives, tying him directly to the crime. The surveillance footage, the discarded backpack, and Luigi's own admission during his arrest only strengthened their case. But Luigi's defense team wasn't backing down. Their strategy raised questions. Was Luigi in the right state of mind when the crime occurred? Could they argue insanity? And more importantly, could they cast doubt on the evidence? Forensic analysis would be key. The defense might argue that while the manifesto and casing seemed damning, they didn't directly prove premeditation. They could challenge the chain of custody for the evidence, pointing to possible errors in how it was collected or handled. And in a high-profile case like this, where emotions ran high, the defense would have one crucial task: remind the jury that the law demands proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But there was another layer to the drama, a personal one. Luigi Mangion wasn't just fighting for his freedom. He was also at risk of losing a fortune. His grandmother, Mary Mangion, had left behind a $30 million estate in a carefully structured trust. The will provided for all her children and grandchildren, including Luigi. But there was a catch. The trust included a strict clause. Anyone charged, convicted, or even indicted for a felony could be cut off. The wording of the clause left no room for leniency. It applied to crimes involving violence, fraud, and even drug distribution. The decision rested with the trustees, who had the power to deny Luigi his share. The clause was ironclad, and unless his legal team could find a loophole, his portion of the inheritance was as good as gone. Legal experts weighed in. Some argued that Luigi could contest the will, especially if his charges were eventually reduced. But this wasn't a simple process. Contesting a will could take years, and even if Luigi succeeded, the trustees' discretion would still play a role. Meanwhile, the prosecution showed no signs of letting up. They aimed to build a case so strong that Luigi would have no chance at acquittal. They pointed to the manifesto, the weapons, and Luigi's deliberate actions leading up to the crime. Their argument was simple. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was premeditated murder. Luigi's defense team faced a difficult road. Public sentiment, though divided, leaned heavily toward the idea that Luigi had acted out of frustration with the healthcare system. But in a court of law, frustration isn't a defense. As the trial date approached, the legal team worked tirelessly, poring over every detail, every piece of evidence, every possible defense. The stakes couldn't be higher. Luigi's life, his freedom, and even his family's legacy hung in the balance. It was a cultural moment. Luigi's case raised uncomfortable questions about the systems we live within. Was this crime purely about one man's anger? Or was it the result of years of systemic frustration? And in the courtroom, how much of that context would matter? Luigi Mangion will face justice in a courtroom, but the conversations his story has sparked won't end there. Whether you see him as a symbol of defiance or a cautionary tale, his actions force us to confront the uncomfortable truth. When systems fail, people suffer, and sometimes that suffering turns into something none of us can ignore. So, what do we do? How do we fix a system that millions feel is failing them? And how do we ensure that frustration, no matter how justified, doesn't lead to tragedy? These are questions we can't afford to avoid, but for now they remain unanswered, leaving us with a story that is as complicated as it is haunting, and a challenge to build something better. Luigi Mangion's story isn't just about one man. It's about the fractures in a system that millions of us live within. It's about the ways those cracks can shape our lives, sometimes in ways we barely notice, and other times in ways we can't ignore. For some, Luigi is a cautionary tale, a man who let frustration lead him down a path of violence. For others, he's a symbol of rebellion, someone who, in their eyes, stood up against a system they feel has been failing people for decades. But no matter where you stand, one thing is undeniable. This case has left an indelible mark on the nation. It has forced us to confront the realities of a healthcare system that often prioritizes profits over people, and it has reignited a conversation that many have been trying to avoid. The fallout from this case is far from over. Luigi Mangion still faces trial, and his actions will continue to divide opinions. But beyond the courtroom, this story leaves us with questions we can't afford to ignore. What drives someone to this point? What role do our systems play in creating or preventing tragedies like this? And perhaps most importantly, how do we begin to fix what so many believe is broken? Luigi Mangion's story challenges us to look beyond the headlines and into the heart of the issues that shape our lives. Whether you see him as a villain, a victim, or something in between, his case is a reminder of the complexities of justice, frustration, and the systems we rely on every day. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Is Luigi Mangion a symbol of rebellion or a cautionary tale? Do you see his actions as an act of desperation or a crime that can't be justified no matter the circumstances? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going because these are the kinds of questions that affect all of us. And maybe, just maybe, through stories like this, we can start to build a better understanding and a better system.